Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Daily English Podcast where every word helps you grow. Have you ever realized how much kindness you already hold within you? You're more powerful than you think? Let's explore that together. Kindness is not just about being nice. It's not about smiling all the time. It's not about saying what people want to hear. It's definitely not about pretending everything is okay when it's not. You see, kindness is often misunderstood. People think being kind means being soft. You have to agree with everyone, avoid conflict, and keep the peace at all costs. But that's not real kindness. That's people-pleasing. It's fear in disguise. That's the desire to be liked more than the desire to help. True kindness is stronger than that. It's rooted in truth. It's guided by compassion. And it's willing to be uncomfortable for the sake of what's right. Kindness doesn't flatter, it uplifts. It doesn't promise the world, it shows up when it matters. It doesn't stay silent to keep things smooth. It speaks when silence would be unkind. Kindness is when you truly listen. It's not just nod and smile while your mind is somewhere else, but stop, breathe, and hear someone with your full attention. To make someone feel seen, not fixed. Heard, not hurried. It's when you notice the small things. When someone tells you their favorite song, and a week later, you play it for them. It's kindness. It's when you remember their hard days and ask, how did it go? Even when the world has moved on. It's kindness. Kindness is offering real support. Not vague encouragement, but specific help. Not, let me know if you need anything, but I'm free tomorrow, can I come help? Standing up when it's easier to stay silent. Saying that's not okay, even if you're the only one in the room. Kindness isn't. Loud, but it's powerful. It moves through small, consistent actions. It doesn't need applause. It just needs intention. Kindness is giving honest feedback, not to hurt. Because you care enough to say, I believe in you, and I know you can do better. It's not about being liked. It's about being real. It's being someone who makes others feel safe, even in the truth. Kindness is celebrating someone else's success, even when you're still waiting on your own, saying, I'm proud of you, and meaning it. No jealousy, no comparison, just love. Kindness is empathy in action. It's not just saying I understand, but truly trying to feel what they feel and showing up with patience. It's not about big promises. It's about small consistencies. Not, I'll always be there, but being there when it counts, when it's inconvenient, when it's unnoticed. Kindness is strength. It takes more. Strength to respond with compassion than to react with ego. It's easier to criticize, easier to walk away, easier to defend. But kindness leans in. Kindness pauses. Kindness asks, what would love do here? It's not perfect, but it's sincere. Kindness isn't about saying yes to everything. It's about knowing when to say no with grace. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is protect your peace, not because you don't care, but because you do. You care enough to show up fully, and that means you can't be everywhere, doing everything all the time. Kindness is having boundaries, not walls, but bridges. Not limits to keep people out, but lines that protect connection, so you can show up with energy, with presence, with honesty. It's when you take a moment to ask yourself, is this truly kind, or am I just afraid of being disliked? Because sometimes we confuse being polite with being kind. Politeness is surface, kindness is soul. Politeness avoids conflict. Kindness navigates it with courage. Politeness says it's fine when it's not. Kindness says, let's talk about it. Kindness doesn't run from discomfort. It leans in, gently. It holds space, even when the air is tense, even when emotions are heavy. Kindness doesn't fix everything, but it refuses to leave people feeling alone in their pain. Kindness doesn't require big gestures. It lives in small moments, a look of understanding, a hand on the shoulder, a silent presence when words would fall short. It's when you let someone cry without trying to stop them, when you don't rush their healing or force your advice. Kindness listens without needing to reply. It holds without needing to rescue. It's the warm smile at the stranger in the hallway. It's giving someone the benefit of the doubt. It's replying to a message even when you're tired, because you know that person might be waiting just to feel seen. Kindness doesn't judge where someone is on their journey. It meets them there, without needing to change them, without needing to agree, just with presence and quiet love. Sometimes kindness is messy. It doesn't always sound soft. It can be the tough conversation you don't want to have but need. 2, because real kindness is honest, and real honesty is brave. Kindness isn't weak. It doesn't let people walk over you. It doesn't stay silent to avoid making waves. It doesn't say yes when your heart means no. It doesn't fake a smile. When something hurts, kindness honors truth, your truth and theirs. It's when you can say, I care about you too much to let this go unspoken. I respect you enough to be real with you. I trust our connection enough to be honest. That is kindness, not comfort, not agreement, clarity, spoken with love. Kindness says, I want the best for you, even if it's not with me. I support your healing, even if I'm not part of the process. I celebrate you, even when I'm struggling too, because kindness doesn't compare. It doesn't compete. It doesn't resent someone else's light. It sees it and says, shine, we all rise together. Kindness is patient when someone stumbles. It's soft when the world is hard. It's steady when things feel uncertain. It's not a mask. It's not a performance. It's not something you do to look good. It's something you give because it's who you are and who you're choosing to become. Kindness is when you slow down, even if just for a minute, to really be with someone. Not distracted, not looking at your phone, not rushing to the next thing, just being there fully. That's rare, it's powerful, and that's kindness. It's not about having the perfect words. It's about presence. Sometimes just sitting beside someone in their silence, in their confusion, is the most profound act of love. Kindness doesn't try to fix what someone feels. It says, you don't have to hide here. I may not understand exactly, but I'm here. That kind of space can heal more than advice ever could. Kindness is not performative. It's not about posting the right words online. It's not about how it looks. It's about how it lands. It's about the real experience you offer another human soul. Kindness doesn't need an audience. It's the moment you pause to check in on someone no one else noticed. It's when you hold the door, not just with your hands, but with your heart. It's when you remember someone's name, when you ask about their mother, their exam, their big day, not because it matters to the world, but because it matters. To them, kindness is deeply human. It connects us beyond words. It reminds us that we're not alone, that someone sees us, still chooses to stay. It's when you forgive, not because what happened was okay, but because you choose peace over poison. Because you know that holding on hurts you more than anyone else. Kindness forgives, but also remembers. Remembers the lesson. It remembers the boundaries, but it does not wish harm. It releases with love, not bitterness. Kindness is when you make room in your heart, in your schedule, in your life, for someone else to grow beside you. not to rush them, not to fix them, but to witness their becoming. It's when you encourage someone behind the scenes, a quiet message, a kind comment, a soft nudge that says, keep going. That kind of support changes lives, not with noise, but with presence. Kindness is showing up for people, not just when they're shining, but when they're falling apart. It's easy to love someone when they're strong, when they're achieving, when they're joyful. But real kindness shows up when they're messy, when they're grieving, when they're lost. Kindness doesn't ask for perfection. It creates space for humanity, for emotions, for healing, for truth. Because kindness doesn't require you to have it all together. It just asks you to be real, to be willing, to care, to connect. And in a world that often moves too fast, that often forgets softness, your kindness is a revolution. Kindness is not about being passive. It's not about staying quiet when something feels wrong. It's not about keeping the peace at the cost of your own voice. It's about speaking with love even when your voice shakes. It's about telling the truth even when it's easier to walk away. Kindness is not silence. It's conscious speech. It's not pretending to agree. It's saying, I respect your view, but this is how I see it. It's not fake harmony. It's real connection. Built on honesty, kindness allows space for difference. It allows space for emotion. It allows space for growth. It's when you say, this might be uncomfortable, but I care enough to talk about it. That's brave. That's healing. It's kind, because kind people aren't always agreeable, but they're always respectful. They may not tell you what you want to hear, but they'll tell you what's real, and they'll tell you in a way that helps, not harms. Kindness is saying no without guilt. It's holding boundaries without anger. It's doing what's right, even if it's not what's easy, even if it's misunderstood, even if it's unappreciated, because kindness isn't for applause. It's for alignment. It's for integrity. It's not to be seen, it's to serve. Sometimes kindness is walking away, not to punish, not to abandon, but because staying would mean losing yourself. Kindness toward others begins with kindness toward yourself. It's choosing rest before you burn out. It's choosing silence when words would wound. It's choosing presence instead of performance. Kindness isn't about being available to everyone all the time. It's about being deeply present to a few when it truly matters. It's not scattered energy. It's focused care. It's when you offer what's real, not just what's easy. When you say, this is all I have right now, but I'm giving it fully. That is enough. That is kindness. Kindness is never weak. Oh, it requires strength because it invites vulnerability. It asks you to stay soft in a world that wants you to harden. It asks you to keep your heart open when it's been bruised, to love again when you've been let down, to believe in goodness when you've been hurt. That is kindness, and that is courage. Kindness is choosing understanding over judgment. It's pausing before reacting. It's asking, what might they be going through? Instead of jumping to conclusions, it's remembering that every person you meet has a story you cannot see. And maybe, just maybe, they need your grace more than your opinion. Kindness is when you stop needing to be right and start caring about being kind. It's not weakness to step back. It's wisdom to not always engage. Kindness knows when to speak and when to simply hold space. It's when you give someone a fresh start, not because they earned it, but because you've grown enough to stop carrying what they did. Kindness doesn't erase memory. It releases resentment. It allows you to move forward without carrying weight that was never meant to be yours. Kindness is letting go of the need to control how others see you. It's being authentic, knowing that not everyone will get it, but the right people will feel it. They'll feel the truth in your presence. They'll feel the safety in your energy. Because kindness isn't in your words alone. It's in your tone, your eyes, your pauses, your presence. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone be, to not pressure them, to not try to change them, to simply witness them without judgment, without advice. Kindness is when you hold your tongue to protect someone's dignity, even if you're right, even if you could win the argument. Kindness doesn't need to win. It wants to heal. Kindness is looking past the surface and seeing the child in someone, the part that's still learning, still hurting, still hoping to be loved. It's when you see the flaw and still choose to care. Not because they deserve it, but because that's who you choose to be. Kindness is not just a feeling. It's a discipline. It's a practice. It's choosing again and again to be the person who creates peace, even in chaos. To be the person who softens the room, even when the world is harsh. Kindness is being gentle with yourself too. To forgive yourself for the things you didn't know. To give yourself the grace you offer others. To speak to yourself kindly when your inner voice wants to criticize. Because kindness begins inside. You can't pour it into others from a place of emptiness. You have to fill your own cup first. With compassion, with rest, with truth. Kindness is when you check in with yourself. Not just, what do I need to get done? But how am I really feeling? It's when you ask, what would be kind to me today? And then you listen. And you act not out of guilt, not out of pressure, but because you've learned that honoring yourself is not selfish, it's essential. Kindness is waking up on a hard day and saying, I'll move slowly today. I'll speak gently to myself. I'll do what I can, and that will be enough. It's those quiet inner moments that no one sees, where you choose softness when it would be easier to be harsh, where you choose patience when frustration wants to take over. Kindness is not about grand sacrifices. It's not about being a hero. It's about being human. It's about noticing. Noticing the people who are struggling. Noticing your own fatigue. Noticing when your words could wound and deciding not to say them. Kindness is the friend who brings you food without asking. It's a stranger who smiles at you just when you are feeling invisible. The person who says, I'm here and truly, means that kindness is slow. It's present. It's thoughtful. It pauses before reacting. It breathes before responding. It thinks not just about what is right, but what is kind. Sometimes, kindness looks like holding the mirror up so someone can see their own beauty. Not because they forgot, but because the world made them doubt. It's telling someone they matter not because you want something in return, but because it's true. And the truth deserves to be spoken. Kindness is grace, given freely, without scorecards, without keeping track. Kindness is showing up the second time, even when the first wasn't appreciated. It's offering another chance. It's remembering that everyone is fighting something you can't always see. It's not easy, but it's worth it, because the world changes when someone feels seen, when someone feels understood, when someone feels loved without condition, without performance. Kindness is what holds us together. It's what lifts us when nothing else can. It's what remains when words fail, when logic doesn't reach, when pain is too deep. Kindness steps in, quiet, soft, steady, and it says, you're not alone. Kindness is when you say, I don't have the answers, but I'm here. It's when you sit in someone's storm and you don't try to fix the clouds. You just hold the umbrella. You become shelter. Not because you know what to do, but because your presence is enough. Kindness isn't found in perfect words. It's found in the courage to stay through the discomfort, to stay when things are awkward, to stay when emotions are raw, because real kindness doesn't run. It's staying in the moment when someone needs you the most. Not checking your phone, not rushing to end the conversation. It's breathing through it with them. It's not about solving their problems. It's about reminding them they don't have to carry it all alone. Kindness is remembering birthdays. Kindness is asking about that thing they were nervous about last week. Now, kindness is when you show people they are remembered, even in the small things. And sometimes kindness is invisible. It's the battles you choose not to fight. The judgments you choose not to speak. The opinions you keep to yourself because they wouldn't add love to the moment. Kindness is restraint. Kindness is maturity. Kindness is knowing the difference between being right and being kind, because the right words at the wrong time can still cause harm, and the truth without love can feel like rejection. Kindness is saying, I disagree, but I still respect you. Kindness is holding space for opposing views without needing to argue. It's not about shrinking your voice. It's about speaking in a way that creates bridges. It's not walls. Kindness is letting people grow at their own pace. It's not rushing them. It's not comparing them. It's cheering for their progress. Even if it looks different from your own, it's not measuring people by your own standards. It's meeting them where they are, with empathy, with patience, with love. Kindness is not one act. It's a way of being. It's who you are when one is watching. It's the quiet strength that stays behind after the noise. It's the whisper in someone's spirit that says, you matter. You are enough. You are loved. Kindness is when you choose to believe the best in someone, even when you've been hurt before. It's trusting again, loving again, giving again. Not because people always deserve it, but because you've decided not to let pain harden your heart. Because you know the world doesn't need more guarded souls. It needs more open ones. It's when you look at someone who's struggling, you don't see their flaws, you see their effort. You see the courage it takes just to keep going. And instead of judging their pace, you walk beside them. Kindness is when you ask yourself, how would I want someone to treat me in this moment? And then you act on that. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. It's the soft word in the middle of tension, the calm voice in the heat of conflict, the apology when you realize your tone hurt someone, even if your words didn't mean to. Kindness is humble. It's not about being the hero. It's about being human enough to say, I'm sorry, didn't mean to hurt you, and strong enough to say, I forgive you. Let's move forward. It's when you let go of the need to win, when you stop keeping score, when you care more about connection than competition. Kindness is the moment. You realize you don't have to prove yourself anymore, that you can just be, you can just love, you can just show up as you are, without pretending, without performing. It's when you stop trying to impress people and start trying to bless people. Kindness doesn't look for attention. It finds meaning in the impact, not the recognition. Sometimes it's thankless, but kindness keeps showing up because its reward is quiet, lives in the heart. It's in the moment you walk away from gossip because you know someone else's pain isn't your entertainment. It's in the way you speak about people when they're not in the room. Kindness is loyalty. It's integrity. It's being someone others can trust to handle their names with care, to speak truth with love, to hold hearts with gentleness, kindness, is when you don't just say, "I'm here for you," but you actually show up. It's not once, but again and again, especially when it's hard, especially when they least expect it. That kind of love changes people. That kind of kindness lingers. Kindness is when you allow someone to be fully themselves, without trying to fix, reshape, or edit them. It's saying, "You're safe here, exactly as you are." It's when someone doesn't feel the need to perform around you. They can drop the mask, they can breathe, because you're not judging them. You're holding them with acceptance. Kindness is not always about doing more. Sometimes it's about simply being, just being present, just being consistent, just being the calm in someone's chaos. That matters more than any grand gesture. It's in the tiny things, the text you send when someone crosses your mind, the way you remember their favorite drink. It's the little notes, the quiet glances, the soft touch on the arm that says, "I see you, I'm with you." Kindness doesn't need to shout. It's rarely flashy, but it's always felt. It stays with people, long after the moment has passed, long after the words are forgotten, because people don't always remember what you said, but they never forget how you made them feel. Kindness is what people hold on to on their hardest days. It's the memory they return to when they feel alone. The moment that reminds them someone cared, someone noticed, someone stayed. Kindness is the way you respond when you're frustrated. It's how you treat people who can do nothing for you. It's how you show up when no one's watching. And it's also how you talk to yourself when you make a mistake, when you fall short, when you feel behind. Because kindness doesn't only belong in the world, it belongs in your mirror too. It's when you say, "I messed up, but I'm still growing. I feel lost, but I'm still worthy. I'm not perfect, but I'm still enough." That's where it begins. Inside, with how you treat the one person you spend every moment with you. When you practice kindness within, it spills out naturally. You don't have to force it. You don't have to fake it. You become it. It becomes your default setting. Not because life is always easy, but because you've decided you'd rather be kind than be bitter. You'd rather be soft than be safe. You'd rather open your heart than close it to protect yourself. That decision made daily, quietly, intentionally, is what makes you powerful. Kindness is when you realize that love isn't always loud. It's not always in grand gestures or poetic speeches. Sometimes love is quiet. It's folding someone's laundry. It's showing up on time. It's sending a voice message that says, "I thought of you today." It's being consistent, even when life feels chaotic. Kindness is in your tone more than your words. It's in how you say good morning. It's in how you say take care. It's in how you pause when someone's eyes look tired and ask them how they're really doing. Kindness notices. Kindness remembers. Kindness slows down. In a world obsessed with speed, kindness chooses presence. In a world chasing likes, kindness seeks connection. In a world full of noise, kindness listens. It's in the moment you offer your seat without being asked. In the way you let someone cut in line because you sense their urgency. In the moment you choose compassion over convenience. Kindness often comes when it's not required, when no one would expect it. What makes it powerful? When someone is rude and you respond with calm. When someone's late and you greet them with grace. When someone forgets and you don't take it personally. Kindness is choosing peace even when you're right. It's choosing love even when you're tired. It's choosing to give when you could easily withhold. Not because you're trying to be perfect, but because you remember what it feels like to need kindness and how deeply it matters when it arrives, kindness creates a ripple. You show it to one person, and they carry it to the next, and the next, and the next, until one soft choice becomes a chain of healing that reaches people you'll never even meet. That's the secret of kindness. It multiplies. It echoes. It expands. All from one moment of intention. And the best part? You never know how far it travels, but it always travels. Kindness is when you give your time without rushing. When you give your attention without splitting. When you give your heart without holding back pieces, not because someone earned it, but because that's the kind of world you want to help build. It's when you stop keeping score. When you give without expecting anything in return. When you do the right thing, even when no one will ever say thank you, because deep down, you know you're planting seeds. And some seeds grow quietly, slowly, beneath the surface. Grow. Kindness is when you hold space for someone's process. You don't rush their healing. You don't minimize their pain. You don't tell them to move on just because their pain makes you uncomfortable. You sit with them. You stay with them. You remind them that their feelings are not too much. Kindness is when you let someone cry. Let them be angry. Let them feel what they feel without trying to fix it. Because you understand that some things can't be fixed. They can be held. Kindness is presence without pressure. Saying, take your time, not going anywhere. That's a gift. Because in a world that rushes, that demands smiles, that expects performance, kindness gives people permission to just be. Kindness is also knowing your limits. It's being honest about what you can offer and when you need to. Rest. Because real kindness doesn't drain you, it includes you. You matter too. And when you care for yourself with compassion, you teach others to do the same. You model what it looks like to give without burning out, to love without losing yourself. Kindness is a quiet kind of wisdom. It sees what's behind the anger. Usually pain. It sees what's behind the silence, usually fear. It sees what's behind the bravado, usually insecurity. And instead of reacting, kindness leans in with empathy. It's not about fixing others. It's about loving them as they figure it out. It's not about changing them. It's about walking beside them as they grow. Kindness is the invisible thread that pulls us closer together when the world tries to pull us apart. Kindness is when you forgive, not because the other person deserves it, but because you deserve peace. You deserve lightness. You deserve to stop carrying a weight that only hurts you. It's not forgetting what happened. It's choosing to let go of the need for revenge. It's saying, I release this so it no longer controls me. That's not weakness. That's strength. Kindness is when you give yourself permission to be imperfect, to make mistakes, to start again. It's when you speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love. Kindness is when you no longer chase approval. You live in your values. You stay in your truth. You treat people with decency, not because of who they are, but because of who you are. It's when you smile at a stranger, not expecting anything back. When you offer a compliment not to gain favor, but just to brighten someone's day. It's when you respond with patience, even when your day is long. When you hold space for someone's bad moment without letting it ruin yours. Kindness doesn't mean you always feel kind. It means you choose it when it matters most. It's a practice. A decision, a way of living. Not a personality trait, but a commitment, kindness. It's when you walk through the world with the awareness that everyone is carrying something. Everyone is healing something. Everyone is hoping for something. And even if they never say it, your small act of grace might be the reason they hold on. This might be the thing they remember when everything else felt dark. Kindness is legacy, not in monuments, but in memories. Not in your name being known, but in your impact being felt. You won't always know the effect you've had, but your softness, your presence, your decision to show up gently, it matters, it ripples, it lingers. Because the truth is, kindness doesn't just change others, okay? It changes you, every time you choose kindness, you become a little softer, a little freer, a little more human. Kindness is when you realize that connection matters more than control. Helping someone doesn't always mean fixing them. That love is not about getting. It all right's about staying through the messy parts. It's saying, I'm still here, even when things are imperfect. Even when the words aren't polished. Even when you don't have the answers. Kindness doesn't demand perfection from others, because it no longer demands it from yourself. You stop expecting people to show up exactly how you want. You let them be who they are, even if it looks different from you. Even if their rhythm doesn't match yours. Kindness is giving people room to grow. It's trusting that everyone blooms. At their own time, you don't rush them. You don't shame them. You stand beside them, sometimes in silence, sometimes with encouragement, but always with respect. Kindness is what you choose when you don't know what else to do. It's what you fall back on when the situation is unclear. It's the compass. That keeps you human when the world feels inhuman. It's the voice inside that says, I want to leave people better than I found them, even if it's just a smile, even if it's just a moment. Kindness is the hand on the shoulder when words won't work. It's the take your time when someone is struggling. It's the I'm proud of you even when progress is slow, even when no one else is watching. Kindness is when you stop waiting for the perfect moment to care and just care now. You realize you don't need to have everything figured out to show up with love. You don't need to be rich to be generous. You don't need to be eloquent to speak warmth. You just need to decide. I will be a soft place. I'll be a safe space. I will be the kind of presence that people remember because it helped them breathe easier. And the truth is, the world doesn't always teach this. It teaches ambition. It teaches productivity. It teaches performance. But kindness teaches humanity. And that's what we need most. Kindness is when you pause before reacting. It's the breath you take before raising your voice. It's the choice to ask, what's really going on here? Instead of immediately judging, because sometimes anger is just a cover for pain. What someone needs most isn't your correction, it's your compassion. Kindness is when you resist the urge to prove yourself right, when you remember that the relationship matters more than the argument. It's when you're brave enough to say, this isn't worth hurting you over, so you let it go. It's not because you lost, but because you won your peace. Kindness is knowing that words leave a trace, so you use yours carefully. You don't sugarcoat truth, but you don't weaponize it either. You speak with honesty, but also with care. Kindness is when you understand that not everyone is ready to receive your help. You respect that. You don't force healing. You don't push your way in. You make space. And sometimes that space, that quiet respect, is the very thing that opens hearts later. Kindness is when you do what you can with what you have. Even if it's small, even if it's unnoticed, you offer the best of you without waiting for the perfect conditions. Because, every gentle act adds up. Every soft word matters. Every choice to love, instead of lash out, shapes the atmosphere around you. Kindness is more than behavior. It's energy. It's presence. It's what people feel when they're around you. Safe, seen, heard, held, and end. The more you live in kindness, the more you start to see people differently. Not as problems to solve, not as enemies to guard against, but as humans all learning, all longing, all trying, and that shift, that lens of softness, it changes everything. Kindness is when you make peace with the fact that you can't do everything, but you can do something. You can send the message. You can hold the door. You can speak gently. You can be a light in one small corner of the world, and maybe, that's exactly what someone needs. Kindness is when you stop measuring love in grand moments and start finding it in the quiet ones. When you realize that wiping someone's tears is just as sacred as celebrating their victories, that sitting in the silence with them is just as powerful as offering advice. Kindness is not about always having the right words. It's about being brave enough to be there when the words run out. It's when you say, I don't know what to say, but I'm not leaving. That moment, that steady presence, that's what love looks like when it's dressed as kindness. Kindness doesn't need an audience. It's in the way you tuck someone in, the way you lower your voice to comfort a child, the way you pick up the call, even when you're tired because you know someone just needed to hear your voice. Kindness is sacrifice, not grand. Not loud, but quiet, consistent, and real. It's when you choose to be kind even when you're hurting, even when you're overwhelmed, even when no one is being kind to you. It's when you say, this pain ends with me. This anger stops here. This moment will not be passed on, because you've seen what cruelty can do, and you've made a decision to live differently, to lead with light, to lead with love. Kindness is your legacy, not in trophies, not in titles, but in how people feel when they think of you. Do they feel safe? Do they feel seen? Do they feel a little more whole because you were part of their story? That's the mark of a kind life. That's the measure of quiet greatness. Kindness is when you stop waiting for someone else to go first. Hold the door, you say. Thank you. You forgive. You reach out. Not because they did, but because that's who you are now. That's the kind of world you want to help create. It's when you realize that leading with kindness doesn't mean you'll never be hurt. It means you've accepted that the risk is worth the beauty, the connection, healing. Kindness is an everyday revolution. It changes homes. It changes classrooms. It changes hearts. It's in how you teach your children to speak, how you treat the person behind the counter, how you respond to your partner after a long day. It's all those micro moments, and every one of them shapes a life. Kindness is choosing to make those moments gentle, to let your words soften rather than sharpen, to let your tone invite rather than accuse, to choose love over power, compassion over ego, presence over perfection. Kindness is when you no longer need credit. You don't need your good deeds posted or praised. You just want to be the reason someone believes there's still good in the world. Kindness is legacy, not through fame, but through feeling. It's the woman who remembers your name at the coffee shop, the man who stops his busy day to help you carry something, the friend who checks on you after the crowd has gone silent. Kindness is rare because it's real. Realness takes courage. It takes strength to be soft in a world that rewards hard. But the softness you give, that gentleness you offer, that's the medicine the world needs most. Not more criticism, not more opinions, not more shouting, but kindness, quiet, steady, real, because kindness doesn't fix everything, but it changes everything it touches. It makes the unbearable feel bearable. It turns survival into healing. It takes broken places and fills them with grace. Kindness is when you offer warmth in a cold moment. When you soften your tone, even though your day was hard. When you see someone's pain behind their anger and you choose to meet it with empathy instead of reaction. It's not always easy, but it's powerful. Because in that split second, you choose peace over pride. You choose healing over hurt. You choose to be a light when you could have been a flame. Kindness is when you take a deep breath instead of snapping back. When you ask, what's really happening beneath the surface, instead of assuming the worst. It's when you learn that people often act out of fear, not malice. And your kindness can interrupt that cycle. Kindness is when you give people the benefit of the doubt. Not because you're naive, but because you've chosen not to become bitter. You've decided that your heart is too precious to be hardened by the world, so you stay open, you stay soft, you stay kind, even when it's not returned, even when it's misunderstood, even when you're tired, because you know that your kindness says more about you than it does about them. Kindness is when you walk away from drama and return to your peace. It's when you don't need to have the last word. When you know your energy is better spent on love than on proving a point. Kindness is protection. It shields people from shame, from loneliness, from feeling invisible. You never know what someone is carrying. But your kindness might be the one moment of softness in an otherwise hard day. It's not a grand performance. It's a daily practice. It's holding the door, replying with care, noticing who's quiet in the room and checking in later. Kindness is a whisper in a loud world, but it's the whisper that stays with people, the one they remember when everything else felt too loud to bear. Kindness is when you choose stillness over reaction. When someone speaks with frustration, and instead of matching their energy, you choose to meet it with calm. That's not weakness. That's emotional strength. That's control. That's love in action. Kindness is when you say, I hear you, even if you don't agree, even if your heart is tired, because you've learned that listening is often more healing than fixing. It's when you pause, not because you're afraid to respond, but because you want to respond with intention, not impulse. That's what makes kindness different. It's not about being nice. It's about being aware. Kindness is when you take your own pain and use it to better understand others. You remember what it was like to feel dismissed, so you validate. You remember what it was like to feel ignored, so you pay attention. Remember what it was like to feel judged, so you become a safe space. Kindness is when you meet someone in their confusion and say, it's okay not to know. You're still doing great. It's not pity. That's empowerment. It's reminding them of their worth when they've forgotten. Kindness is a light. Not one that blinds, but one that gently reveals. It doesn't force people to change. It reminds them they can. It doesn't pressure people to grow. It offers them the space and support to do so. Kindness is found in the details. The way you say someone's name. The way you remember their story. The way you laugh at their joke, even when it's not perfect, just because it mattered to them. Kindness doesn't look for flaws. It looks for hearts. And when you lead with that, with heart, with humanity, you don't just become a kinder person. You become a healing person. Because the world is aching. not for more noise, not for more perfection, but for softness, for compassion, for people who make others feel safe to be themselves. Kindness is when you accept that not every story is yours to understand, but every person is worthy of compassion, even when they're different, even when they make choices you wouldn't make, even when they seem hard to love. Because you know kindness isn't about agreement, it's about dignity, it's about humanity. It's when you see someone struggling, and instead of asking what's wrong with them, you ask, what happened to them? That shift in perspective, that's what changes how we treat each other. Kindness doesn't assume. It wonders. It's curious. It asks gentle questions instead of making harsh conclusions. And in doing so, it opens doors that judgment would slam shut. Kindness is how you speak about others. When they're not in the room, it's how you carry their name in your conversations. It's how you honor their story even when they're not around to hear it. Kindness is protection. It shields people not with walls, but with gentleness. It's with loyalty. It's when you stand up for someone because silence would feel like betrayal. It's when you choose truth, but wrap it in love. Kindness is not weakness. It's not passivity. It's courage in its softest form, because it takes courage to be calm when others are chaotic, to be steady when others are reactive, to be light when others are cold, and sometimes kindness is fierce. It's the boundary that says, I love you, but I won't let you treat me this way. Because real kindness includes you too. It's not about pleasing everyone. It's about living in alignment with what's true and right and kind for you and for others. Kindness is healing energy. You walk into a room and the atmosphere softens. People relax. Walls come down because your presence feels safe. Not perfect, not polished, just real. That's what people remember. Not your title, not your wealth, not your status, but how they felt around you. And if that feeling was warmth, peace, care, then you gave them a gift that's worth more than anything else. Kindness is when you understand that being right isn't the goal, being kind is. Being heard matters, yes, but being gentle while speaking your truth matters even more. You learn to say what you feel without hurting others in the process, because kindness isn't silence, it's strength guided by empathy. Kindness is when you disagree with grace. You hold space for another perspective without attacking. You listen to understand, not just to reply. And even when you stand firm, you don't have to stand hard. Kindness is in how you deliver your truth. You can say hard things with a soft heart. You can challenge someone without shaming them. You can offer truth without making it a weapon. Kindness is when you choose to be a peacemaker, not a peacekeeper. You don't avoid conflict to keep others comfortable. You move through it with care, with honesty, with respect. Because you believe that relationships can survive disagreement as long as kindness leads the way. Kindness is when you take responsibility for how your energy affects a room. You check your tone. You manage your triggers. You pause when you're overwhelmed so you don't transfer your pain to the people around you. Kindness is emotional self-awareness. It's knowing that healing yourself is also a gift to others. Because when you show up whole, you stop wounding people unconsciously. Kindness is not perfection. It's progress. It's growth. It's effort. It's when you mess up and still return with humility. It's when you say, I was wrong and I want to do better. That moment, that repair, that matters more than getting it right the first time. Kindness is the language of healing. The invisible thread that reconnects what life tries to tear apart. It's the balm over old wounds. It's the bridge back to trust, the gentle hand that says you're safe now. Sometimes kindness is invisible, but it's always felt. It leaves an imprint on hearts that lingers far beyond the words spoken. Kindness is when you stop trying to impress people and start trying to impact them. You stop chasing validation and start showing up in your values. You let go of the need to be liked because being kind has become enough. Kindness is quiet confidence. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need to be seen. It simply chooses to be good, even when no one is watching. It's not about putting on a show. It's about being the same person in every room. Whether you're with a stranger or a friend, whether it's online or in person, you lead with care. Kindness is consistency. It's not one act on a good day. It's a habit, a rhythm, a choice made over and over, especially when it's hard. It's the way you speak about people when you're angry, the way you treat them when you're disappointed, the way you respond when your patience is tested. Kindness is when your heart stays soft, even when life gets hard. When you keep choosing love, even when it's not easy. When you stay rooted in compassion, even when others are rooted in chaos. Kindness is power, but not the kind the world usually celebrates. Not loud power, not force, not dominance, but the quiet power that transforms hearts, that builds bridges, that softens walls. It's the kind of power that can't be taken because it comes from within. Kindness is your character shining through your choices, not for credit, not for praise, but because that's who you've become. It's when love isn't something you talk about, it's something you live. Every moment, every word, every breath. You are kindness in motion. You are care in action. And without even realizing it, you are changing the world. One soft word at a time. One gentle moment at a time. One person at a time. Kindness is when you slow down enough to see people. Not just their actions, but their hearts. Not just their mistakes, but their intentions. You begin to see beyond what they show into what they carry. And that awareness changes everything. Kindness is when you give people the benefit of growth. You don't freeze them in their past. You allow them to become better, to evolve, to rise beyond who they were when they were hurting. It's when you say, I believe you're more than your worst day. And mean it, because you remember your own. Kindness is when you offer gentleness, not just to others, but to the past version of yourself. You stop shaming the person you used to be. You look back with love, with forgiveness, with grace, because you know that younger you was doing their best with the tools they had, and that deserves kindness too. Kindness is full circle love. It's healing backwards so you can move forward. It's forgiving yourself so you don't pass your pain on to others. It's when you stop carrying the weight of self-hate, pick up compassion instead. Because what you give to yourself, you give more freely to others. Kindness is when you stop trying to be perfect and start trying to be real. When you let go of the image and embrace the essence, the raw, messy, human parts of you that are just as worthy of love as the polished ones. Kindness is when you meet your flaws with curiosity, not condemnation. When you meet your insecurities with tenderness, not shame. It's when you say, I'm still learning, but I love who I'm becoming. That voice, that softness, that is the root of all true kindness. Because the kinder you are to you, the more kind you become to everyone around you. Kindness is when you walk into a room and bring calm, not by fixing anyone, but by being deeply at peace with yourself. You've learned that your inner world shapes your outer energy, so you care for your thoughts. You check your heart, you slow your reactions, because kindness is energy before it's action. It's when you know someone's having a bad day, and instead of matching their mood, you offer softness. Not to change them, but to not become them. Kindness is presence without pressure. You don't need to fill every silence. You don't need to solve every problem. You're simply there, a steady hand, a kind voice, a quiet anchor in the storm. Kindness is when you catch yourself judging and pause. You ask what else could be true here. You make space for the whole story, not just the part you can see. Kindness is when you recognize that every person you meet was once a child longing for safety, belonging, and love. Even now, there's still that child in some ways, and you meet them there with compassion. Kindness is when you don't rush people's process. You let them bloom at their own pace. You don't yank on their roots just to see progress. You trust that gentleness grows more than pressure ever will. Kindness is also boundaries. It's knowing when to say no with love. It's choosing peace over people-pleasing. Because real kindness isn't about being liked. It's about being true. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do is be honest. Kindness doesn't mean you never feel anger. It means you've learned to channel it with care. It means you don't lash out. You lean in. You process. Respond with purpose, not pain. Kindness is emotional maturity in motion. It's awareness. It's choosing to be someone who creates more light than they absorb. And every time you do that, every time you choose kindness over chaos, you change your world and someone else's. Kindness is when you realize you don't need to wait for a big moment to make a difference. You understand the power of the small things: a smile, a kind message, a gentle tone, a deep breath when you want to shout. You don't underestimate those things anymore, because you've seen how a small word of encouragement can carry someone through a hard day. Kindness is when you choose to see the good, even when it's buried. Even when it's hard, you search for it like gold. You speak to it in others, even when they don't see it in themselves. Because kindness believes. It believes in healing. It believes in people. Believes in second chances. Kindness is the voice inside that says, you don't have to get it all right, just don't stop trying. It lets people breathe. It makes room for their humanity. Kindness is when you choose love in the middle of inconvenience. It's when you help even when it slows you down. It's when you stay kind, even when others aren't. Not because they deserve it, but because that's who you are. Kindness is legacy. Not in buildings, not in money, but in how people feel when they think of you. Do they feel safe? Do they feel respected? Do they feel seen? That's what lasts. It's what echoes. Kindness is when you stop needing to prove yourself and start focusing on being yourself. When you let go of perfection and show up as real, because real is what heals. Real is what connects. Real is what people remember. Kindness is when you're not afraid to be soft, because you know softness is strength. It's a brave kind of power. It's the kind of power that doesn't control people. It frees them. It makes them feel safe. Enough to grow, to speak honestly, to rest, to dream again. That's what kindness does. And that's what you give when you live from a kind heart. Kindness is when you remember that everyone is doing the best they can with what they know, even when it doesn't look like it. even when their best isn't what you would have chosen. You don't excuse the harm, but you hold the whole picture. You see the humanity behind the hurt, and you meet it with grace. Kindness is when you let go of resentment, not because it didn't hurt, but because you deserve peace. You deserve space for joy. You deserve a heart that isn't always at war with the past. Kindness is when you give space to your own emotions without letting them control your actions. You feel deeply, but you move gently. You let the emotion rise, but you let love lead. Kindness is when you remember that silence can be sacred. You don't always need to fill the air. Sometimes just being there is enough. Sometimes just listening is everything. Kindness is when you choose to believe in people's ability to grow. You don't write them off because of one version of themselves. You believe in their becoming. You believe in redemption. You believe in change. And not just for others, for yourself. 2. Kindness is when you forgive yourself for the times you didn't know better. You stop punishing yourself for the old chapters. You say, I'm still worthy of love, even in my becoming. Kindness is when you stop trying to earn your worth and start recognizing it. You no longer perform for approval. You no longer sacrifice your peace just to be accepted. You become rooted in who you are, and from that rootedness, you pour into others. It's not to be seen, not to be praised, but because it feels right. Kindness is your inner compass. When everything feels uncertain, you come back to it. You ask, what is the kind thing to do here? And even when the answer is hard, you follow it, because that's who you are. Kindness is when you notice the invisible, the quiet struggle, the unsaid pain. The moment someone hides behind a smile and you gently ask, are you okay? Not to fix them, just to let them know they're not alone. Kindness is when you give someone the dignity of their story. You don't interrupt. You don't dismiss. You really listen, because their truth matters, because their voice deserves space. Kindness is when you honor people's timing. You don't rush their healing. You don't push their progress. You simply walk beside them with patience, with trust, with presence. Kindness is when you stop comparing pain. You don't say, at least you're not. You say, I'm here for whatever you're feeling. You don't try to rank. Suffering, you just try to understand. Because pain is pain. And love is love. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do is not minimize someone's storm. It's just because you've weathered your own. Kindness is when you let people evolve. You allow them to change. You support their new choices without reminding them of who they used to be. You let them grow without guilt. Kindness is when you check on the strong friend. The one who always seems fine. It's the one who never asks for help. You remind them it's okay to fall apart. It's okay to need rest. It's okay to not be okay. Kindness is making room for all of someone, not just their happy, helpful, useful parts. It's accepting the whole human, the messy and the magnificent, the strength and the struggle. Kindness is when you celebrate small wins with big joy. You make people feel seen for the little things, the courage it took to get out of bed, the choice to keep going, the effort to stay kind when life felt unkind, because you know those little victories are the foundation of something beautiful. Kindness is when you see someone's edge. And you don't run, you reach. You understand that people build walls to protect, not to push away. And sometimes kindness is the hand that waits, not the hand that knocks it down. Kindness is when you don't take everything personally. You've grown enough to realize that not every cold tone is an attack. Not every silence is rejection. Not every distant moment means you're unwanted. Sometimes it's just someone trying to survive their own storm. So instead of reacting, you hold space. You stay soft. You become the calm in a world of inner chaos. Kindness is when you give someone what you needed once. You become the comfort you once prayed for. You become the encouragement you once longed for. And in doing so, you don't just heal them, you heal you. Kindness is when you treat the janitor the same as the CEO. Because titles don't impress you, character does. You see souls, not status. And in that simple equality, you remind people of their worth. Kindness is when you stop trying to change people and start loving them into change. You let your presence be an invitation, not a pressure. You live your truth loudly, but love others where they are. Kindness is when you don't weaponize someone's vulnerability. You don't repeat what was told in trust. You don't turn their softness into ammunition. You protect. You guard. You make your love a safe space. Kindness is also how you speak to yourself when no one's listening. It's the voice you use in your head. It's the way you respond to your own failures. Do you curse yourself or comfort yourself? Because kindness starts there, inside. Kindness is when you realize your relationship with yourself is reflected in every relationship around you. So you start with you. You become kind. With your own thoughts, you rest without guilt. Speak to yourself gently. And suddenly, kindness isn't something you do, it's something you are. Kindness is when you don't just hear, you understand. You don't just nod, you feel. You don't just wait for your turn to speak. You give someone the gift of being fully heard. Kindness is when you respond to someone's pain, not with advice, but with presence. You say, I don't have the answer, but I'm not leaving. And in that moment, you give them something stronger than solutions. You give them connection. Kindness is when you stop rushing conversations. You stop multitasking when someone is speaking. You look them in the eye. You let them know they're important enough to hold your full attention. Kindness is in the details. It's remembering someone's favorite drink, sending a message on the day they always struggle. It's noticing the little shifts in their mood and checking in. Kindness is when you see that your time is one of the greatest gifts you can give, and you give it. Not out of obligation, but out of care, out of presence, out of love. Kindness is when you speak with warmth, not just words. It's when your tone becomes a blanket and your silence becomes a hug. It's when people leave your presence feeling more grounded, more accepted, more whole. Kindness is also when you say no with love. You understand that overextending yourself to make someone else comfortable is not real kindness. It's self-abandonment. So you honor your limits, you speak them gently. You don't hide from your truth just to keep the peace. Because kindness isn't about avoiding conflict, it's about showing up with care even in the middle of it. It's when you disagree with compassion. When you hold firmness and tenderness in the same hand, kindness doesn't mean weakness. It means wisdom. It means you've learned that love without honesty is just performance. Truth without compassion is just cruelty. Kindness is the balance. Between the two, kindness is when you offer what you weren't given. You break the cycle. You stop the pattern. You choose not to pass down the pain, not because it was fair, but because you are strong enough to create something new. Kindness is when you don't wait to feel ready, you just decide to be kind. Anyway, even when you're tired, even when you're hurting, even when no one seems to notice. Because it's no longer about what you get back. It's about who you're becoming. Kindness is when you don't need to be the center. You're, making space for others. You celebrate their growth. You amplify their voice. You don't compete. You connect. Kindness is not a strategy. It's a state of being. It's not something you turn on and off. It's who you are, even when no one's watching. It's when you tip well, even on a bad day. It's when you clean up after someone who forgot. It's when you smile at the cashier, even when you're running late. It's when you live your values through. Your actions, not just your words. Kindness is when you remember that everyone is carrying something. Invisible battles. Silent griefs. Private storms, and that remembering softens you. It makes you slower to anger, quicker to grace. Kindness is when you forgive, not because it didn't hurt, but because you're done carrying the burden. You've chosen freedom, you've chosen light, and sometimes kindness is walking away, not with bitterness, but with peace, because staying would make you unkind to yourself. Kindness is when you don't chase closure from people who can't give it. You write your own ending with softness, with release. With love, it's when you give yourself the kindness you once begged for from others. That's not weakness. That's healing. Kindness is when you let people be who they are without needing them to be like you. You don't try to mold them into your image. You simply witness their journey, respect their path, hold space for their becoming. Kindness is when you stop needing to be right more than you want to be kind. You choose connection over ego. You realize that sometimes the deeper strength is found in letting go of the argument and holding on to the day relationship. Kindness is when you meet people where they are, not where you wish they'd be. You adjust your expectations, not your respect. You lead with empathy, not control. Kindness is when you give without keeping score. You don't wait for a return. You don't expect applause. You give because giving is who you are. You pour because you've overflowed. Kindness is when you see beauty in difference. And someone else's success doesn't feel like your failure. And someone else's shine doesn't dim your own. You know, there's room for everyone. Everyone to win. That's the kind of kindness that changes culture. Kindness is when you don't need someone to be perfect before you love them. You don't hold love hostage. You let it be free. You let it reach. You let it heal. Kindness is also protection. It's keeping someone's story sacred. It's not repeating what they told you in confidence. It's honoring their vulnerability with reverence. Kindness is when you notice someone falling behind, and you slow down. You don't rush ahead. You walk with them. It's not to save them, but to remind them they're not alone. Kindness is when you catch yourself in judgment and turn it into curiosity. You ask, what is this teaching me about myself? And suddenly your harshness turns into wisdom, and your reactions become growth. Kindness is not perfection. It's presence. It's intention. It's love on purpose. Kindness is when you look at someone with no agenda. You're not trying to fix them, not trying to change them. You're simply there to honor their humanity, to see them, hear them, and value them as they are. Kindness is when you give people space to feel. You don't rush them to be okay. You don't try to bypass their sadness with toxic positivity. You sit beside them in the mess, in the confusion, in the quiet. And in that stillness, you become a sanctuary. Kindness is when you tell someone, I'm proud of you, not because they did something huge, but because they kept showing up, because they tried, because they didn't give up. Kindness is when you notice the good in others and say it out loud. You don't assume they know. You don't keep compliments locked away. You give them freely, knowing your words might be the only kind thing they hear all day. Kindness is when you stop waiting for someone to earn love and you start offering it as a gift. You lead with grace, not judgment. With patience, not pressure. Kindness is when you don't make someone's story about you. You don't redirect. You don't overshadow. You listen. You let their voice be the center for a while. Kindness is when you remember that behind every behavior is a need. You choose to respond to the need, not just the action. Kindness is when you celebrate growth no matter how slow. You cheer people on, even when their pace is different than yours. You understand that healing isn't linear, and love doesn't expire when progress slows. Kindness is when you recognize that we all want the same thing: to be seen, to be understood, to be loved, and you decide, in every small way, to be. Someone who offers that kindness is when you don't just say, "Take care," you mean it. You show it. You follow up. You remember their story, their moment, their need, and you hold it with respect. Kindness is when you show up, not just in the good times, but in the mess, in the grief, in the confusion, when someone doesn't have words for what they're feeling, but you stay anyway. Kindness is when you give people time. Time to think, time to speak, time to grow. You don't rush their story because you've learned that presence is more powerful than pressure. Kindness is when you no longer confuse silence with weakness. You've learned that calm is its own kind of power. That softness is not surrender, it's a strength most people never master. Kindness is when you hold yourself accountable, not out of shame, but out of love. You know when to say, "I was wrong." You don't let pride be louder than love. Kindness is when you choose peace, even when your ego wants to win. You step back when your heart says so. You speak softly when the world is loud. You choose grace not because they earned it, because you've become it. Kindness is when you don't just do kind things, you become a kind presence. Your energy does the work before your words ever arrive. It's when people feel safe with you, even if they don't know why. It's the way your kindness wraps around a moment, leaving it softer than before. It's when someone walks away not with more answers, but with more hope. And maybe that's enough. Kindness is when you carry peace into the places that forgot what peace feels like. It's when your presence reminds others to breathe, to soften, to let go. Even for just a moment. Kindness is when you choose patience in the middle of frustration. When someone's being difficult, and instead of matching their energy, you anchor into yours. It's not about being passive. It's about being purposeful, about remembering who you are even when everything around you tries to pull you out of character. Kindness is when you love people not for who they used to be, but for who they're trying to become. You see the effort, not just the outcome. You see the desire to grow, even in the middle of the struggle. Kindness is when you don't make someone feel small just because they're still learning. You meet them where they are. You speak with dignity. You remind them that growing is brave, not embarrassing. Kindness is when you understand that everyone you meet is healing from something. So you move with care. You leave space. You offer warmth without needing to know the whole story. Kindness is when you're tired, but still choose not to be rude. When you're stressed, but still say thank you. When you're in a rush, but still hold the door, because you've learned that being kind isn't a performance, it's a habit. Kindness is when you look in the mirror and speak to yourself with love. You don't wait for someone else to tell you you're enough. You say it to yourself again and again till your soul believes it, because kindness starts there in the quiet, in the reflection, in the way you treat the parts of you no one else sees. And when that love grows inside, it flows outside, into your words, into your relationships, into the world. Kindness is when your life becomes a quiet revolution. You don't shout to be heard. You live in a way that speaks louder than words, not by being perfect, but by being present. By being impressive, but by being real. Kindness is when you move through the world with an open heart, even after it's been hurt. You still trust. You still hope. You still choose to love, not because it's easy, but because it's who you are. Kindness is when you carry light, even in dark places. Not because the world always deserves it, but because you do. Because when you live with kindness, you live with alignment, with purpose. With peace, kindness is when you realize that every act of love, no matter how small, creates a ripple. A shift, a moment that someone else might carry for the rest of their life. Kindness is legacy, not built in noise, but in the quiet consistency of how you choose to show up every day. It's in the way you answer the phone, the way you say goodbye, the way you sit beside someone in silence and make them feel like they belong. Kindness is not a task, it's a presence. And the more you live in it, the more the world heals around you. Because when you choose kindness, you remind people of their humanity. You remind them that they matter, that they're worthy, that someone cares. And that reminder, that feeling, it stays. Long after the words, long after the moment. Kindness becomes memory, and memory becomes healing. So be that person. The one who leads with heart, the one who chooses softness in a hard world, the one who walks in love and leaves peace behind, not because you have to, but because you can. Because this world needs more people who live with kindness as their legacy. Thank you for walking through this journey with me. If this touched your heart, I hope you carry it forward in your actions, in your words, in your quiet moments, because every kind choice you make builds a better world. One word, one moment, one heart at a time. This is your story now. Live it kindly. Thank you for listening to the Daily Motivational English Podcast. If this message moved you, share it with someone you care about. And remember, you don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You just need to be kind. See you in the next episode. Stay gentle, stay growing, and keep speaking with your heart.